All right, guys. So we finished up the x prime coordinate. Um, so like I said, that becomes -3, 2. So anytime you see a negative like this one in front of the value in the rule, all we're doing is we're changing the sign. So for this, all we're doing is changing the sign for those x and y coordinates. So for this, 3 becomes -3, -2 becomes +2. So that is our solution. So it's going to be -3, +2. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next coordinate. Okay. So if we move on to y, so y is at 6, 1. So all we got to do to find the coordinates for y prime is we just change these to -6, -1. Okay. That's all we're doing. So y prime is going to be -6, -1. All right, and the last one is z. So z prime is going to be at 5, -7. So we're going to change that, and we're going to change the sign for both of those, leaving them in the same position. So that becomes a -5, all right, and a +7. All right, that 7 changes from a negative to a positive. So for z prime, it's going to be -5, 7. Okay, and we can plot those coordinates. So if we do, we're going to get x at -3, x prime at -3, 2. It's going to be x prime. All right, and then y is going to be at -6, -1. So that's going to be right there, y prime. And then the last one is z is at -5, 7. So -5, 7. That's going to be z prime. So just connecting the dots here, that is going to be our rotation. And if you guys look, like 180 degrees is rotating it, like I think of 180 degrees as like a straight line or anything like that. So we're rotating it like halfway around a circle. Okay, that's kind of what I think of. And it makes sense. It looks correct. All right, so we're good to go. So let's move on to the next problem here. All right, guys. So for number 5 here, what we have is a rhombus, all right, and it's being rotated 270 degrees counterclockwise, okay? So our rule for rotations of 270 degrees counterclockwise, our rule is going to be we take the generic x comma y and we change it to y comma -x. So we're taking that y coordinate, putting it in the first position, and putting our x coordinate in the second position and changing the sign. So if we're going to do this, we start off with c. C is at -5, 5. Okay. So what happens is that that 5 right there, that was the y coordinate, comes into the first position over here and becomes 5. All right, we don't change the sign. Now, the x coordinate moves to the second position over here and becomes a +5 as well because we changed the sign. All right, we changed that sign. So the coordinate for c prime is just going to be 5, 5. All right. So now if we move on to the next one. So if we move on to the next one is D. All right. So if D is at -1, 7. So when that changes, we make that 7, put that first, and then that -1 changes the sign and becomes a +1. Okay. So D prime is at 7, 1. Now moving on to E. E is at -3, 3. So when we change it, the 3 comes into the first spot over here. -3 moves into the second spot right there, and we change the sign to a +3. So E prime is at 3, 3. Okay. And then lastly, we have F at -7, 1. So that changes to that 1 comes in the first spot. The -7 moves into the second spot and becomes positive. So we're at 1, 7. So for this we